Welcome to Support Life, a program focusing on current social issues from a life-affirming perspective. I'm John Hendriks, and this week our guest is Paul OLeary, a school teacher with a heart for pro-life. Welcome, Paul.
Hiya, John. How are you? Thank you.
Very well, thanks. Yourself?
I'm very good. Glad to be here today.
Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Perhaps for some of our viewers, you can tell us a little bit about you personally.
Yeah, I'm a 30-year-old school teacher. I've moved to Australia about 5 years ago. I actually trained out here at La Trobe, did a grad dip in primary education. And I've been working now in the northern suburbs for the last 4 years. And I just got PR in July, so I'm here for good.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you're enjoying Australia? You like it?
Yeah, look, Ireland's going through a pretty bad time at the moment. I'm a teacher, public servant, so there's not many jobs, big cuts. And I'm an economic migrant. I came out here and Australia's done me very well. Got a job now and I'm very happy over here.
Excellent.
Yep.
Very good, and great cause too as school teacher.
Yeah, it can be hard at times,
hard work,
but
yeah.
I love my job and keeps you on my toes. Yeah,
Fantastic.
it's fantastic.
And tell us a little bit about your background back home. You obviously lived there, I assume, for most of your adult life.
Yeah, I
so far.
grew up in a Catholic home, both parents pretty devout. Went to the local national school, as we all do. Went to secondary school and then studied sociology in Maynooth. And then had an opportunity, actually, I went to India. And that's when really I got an opportunity to do some teaching. Was this for me? See different countries. About 19, and it was eye-opener to the rest of the world. And then went back for a few years, ebbing and flowing. Lived in the UK, lived in America, and I actually got an opportunity to work as an unqualified teacher in Dublin, just as a support. And that was fantastic. And I realised teaching is something that I want to do, because I did a bit of research before that, and then came to Australia, La Trobe, and the rest is history. I'm here.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
That's excellent. And while you're on the subject of travelling, you said you spent some time in the US and also in India.
Yep.
And in the UK, I think you said previously.
Yeah,
as well,
I'm an immigrant in that way. I've no emotional attachment to the countries that I've ever lived in, but I loved them dearly. Every country I've ever, and great respect for all of them. But in regards to the issues, you get to talk to different people, different views on life, different perspectives on life, and sharing, getting to know your own views. That's the main thing that I learned by traveling, is I'm able to frame what I believe, what I'm for and what I'm against. And particularly in the States, that's where I really started thinking about issues and start thinking about the human condition and where we're going, where we were coming from, what's happening, what's this whole experience. And now I'm in Australia, sitting in a program with you talking about it.
Fantastic. Perhaps you could tell our viewers, how you came about to be on the program.
I'm pro-life, and I suppose it was when I first arrived, we'll say 5 years ago, I got in contact with, I think it was Pro-Life Victoria, with Denise Cameron, and just, sending envelopes out and really just participating in a small level. I've always been pro-life, I was raised pro-life, and then when I was thinking about it, I was like, oh, actually I agree with this makes sense to me. It's a rational thing to believe in, that the fetus has rights, and what does that mean? So I participated in a small way, and then going to the March for the Babies, always interested in the issues. On the news, if there was an abortion issue, I would listen to it. I want to hear it. How is it being presented? I'm always interested in the politics of the country around abortion. Where is it going? What's happening? Who's an advocate on both sides? What is the fight looking like, and where is it going? And I have a great love for American politics. That's one of what happens there, I think affects us all. So it's very interesting to view really our future on certain issues, and to come to Australia, and I'm interested in the Australians' view on this issue. Where do people stand on it?
We were saying before off camera that that Australians are very, generally speaking, very polite people and don't want to, sort of put their personal views on you. So at times they don't express their feelings, or they don't speak about, maybe some of these issues, or they're not prepared to cover some of these delicate issues in conversations. What's your experience?
I've lived in Melbourne now almost 5 years. It's a very polite city. It's a very safe place to live. It's very prosperous. People are very middle class. Everyone lives in the suburbs, and people are getting on with their lives in a very kind of individualistic way, which is good. I support that. That's fantastic. I've lived that life myself. But when issues arise on anything, there's a deep sense of, this is a serious conversation. We want to move away from a serious conversation, and people see it as almost that it's an aggressive debate, when really it's not. People are just discussing their opinions, like, what's your view? Like, do you think a woman has a right to an abortion? It's just a question. It doesn't have to become an emotional fight, doesn't it? And so often it comes down to an emotional fight, when really it's just an opinion. What's your view? What's framed? Yeah. What experiences have framed your life? What's your view on life? Where do you lie on it? And whatever it is, persuade people, put it out there, discuss it, and it's okay. And the more people discuss, the more community we actually have. When people don't talk, you have fractious community. People aren't closer together because people are suspicious. They don't know what people are thinking, what's going on. Where it's great to sit down with people and have a difference of opinion and put out your argument and try to. Because when we were speaking before, that's where I got when I lived in the States. That's what it was. To see that people put out their ideas continuously and they promote them, and it's good.
Well, I'm going to give you my idea in a moment, and my idea is we're going to have to take a break. You've been watching Support Life. We'll be back shortly, straight after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm John Hendriks, and our guest is Paul OLeary. Paul, just before the break, we were talking about expressing your opinion, and there's nothing wrong with having an opinion and just talking about the pro-life culture. And what's your experience of Australian people generally about expressing their opinion to do with this sensitive subject about life?
Well, when you live in any community, any country, you're living within the bubble. You're living within those cultural norms. I've come outside of the bubble. I'm coming in, having lived in all these different countries, and I view thinking as a positive thing. I view that difference is actually a very good thing, because it highlights differences in you, and you can discuss them and you can talk about them. So to come to Australia, and we've all been probably at a dinner party and we're sitting down and the issue of abortion comes up, or some controversial issue comes up, and there's an uncomfortability. People are afraid to even talk about it. And I can only speak for myself. It's actually a courageous act to kind of go, "Ooh, hold on a minute. What would you think of an abortion? Maybe at the 6th month, or the 7th month, or the 3rd month?" And you're trying to. How I approach it is, you're trying to come from a thinking perspective. It doesn't have to be religious or imposing an ideology. It's trying to come from, well, what's your thought if I change the situation? How would you view it? And you're trying to persuade people that they mightn't come to your persuasion, they mightn't come to your end or your view, but you're letting them think about the situation, letting them to go home and kind of, oh, well, actually, I thought about that tonight, and I put a question mark over my beliefs. And that's, I think, really, really important, is to every few years you put a question mark over what you believe in and try to reframe it again and say, well, is this what I actually believe in? Because it's so easy to reaffirm each other's beliefs all the time. When you're in a small group and everybody is pro-choice, it's so easy to just go, well, we're right. And sad enough, they are the majority. There's more pro-choice people out there, hence the laws reflect that. The members of Parliament reflect that. But again, my perspective is trying to get people to think. I'm a teacher. That's my job. I ask simple questions. I ask, complex questions, whatever question it is. And it's not a judgment on what you're thinking or what you're saying. It's just sharing and trying to come to that.
Absolutely, and that's yeah. That we wish more people would think like you, because if that's the case, then I guess it opens up the debate and forum on a lot of issues regarding life. In your time in New York, you spent 6 months odd there in New York, and you, because you said earlier that you like understanding how people live and politics, and give us the difference between America and Australia in basic terms.
I think Australia is very similar to Ireland in the sense we're very consensus politics. We kind of come together and we try to agree and we try to stay in the middle ground and we try to make everybody happy or everybody unhappy at the same time. Where to go to a country like America where ideas were out there, people were debating, people were on the streets, it was amazing to watch that it's okay to have an alternative view, it's okay to disagree, it's okay to be almost as what we'd view in Australia as an extremist in certain views. It's okay to have a view, and you do have the freedom of thought and the freedom of expression. It's protected, where I don't feel it's fully protected over here. There is a sense of limiting certain types of speech, certain types of thought. There's a sense of we're trying to get a consensus. So with the abortion issue, you know it's been spoke about in America. It's on the front paper. You know exactly what Obama thinks about it. You know exactly what the Republicans think about it. Over here, you're not too sure, actually. Because when that question arises, it's a deflective answer. It's trying to move away from the issue and try to kind of give a softer version of kind of, it's not my place to talk about that, or, it's not in my situation. When really, actually, these people are making laws, they're affecting people. I believe you have a right to know what your politicians think and what they vote on. So there's a massive difference. Australia is very much on the view that you kind of go along to get along. This is an issue that we don't really want to be dealing with. We don't want this to become a political issue, even though it's there. Taxpayers' money is going towards.
Do you think that the reason the politicians don't want to cover the subject here is because maybe they're afraid of being, losing office because of their opinions on where they stand on this topic?
Well, in America, they're afraid of losing office as well. It's just that the culture is more open to ideas. So it's not necessarily that this guy is being this fantastic politician. He's going to say, I'm pro-life, and he knows his electorate too. But I think that there's not a culture in Australia to have a total freedom of speech, to have this sense of kind of going, I disagree with you. And even when I speak to pro-lifers, there's even kind of a sanitized version as well. They don't want to mention the kind of it's murder or it's killing. They don't want to kind of mention the facts or what's the principle of it. They're trying to soften their position to sell it in an environment that kind of believes in that kind of consensus.
Yes.
Where really, I believe the pro-life message is actually, it's on conviction, it's on principle. And if you stand by principle, anything that comes up, so you're going to get the minority cases, you're going to get these horrific cases that we want to deal with, but we're able to stand with the principle and say, well, we believe that the fetus has rights. We believe that rights are innate, they're not given to us by a government. Therefore, in any situation, the fetus has a right to continue life. And I think that's a positive way. You don't really get that over here, even with the pro-lifers. It's that sense of trying to sell it to the masses rather than standing on principle, which I think is actually the winning ground.
Yes.
Because you stand on principle, there's no wavering.
Yes.
So this is what we believe in.
It makes sense.
And then going back to America, that's where I really saw that. I saw people that were really principled and very living with conviction rather than trying to sell anything to persuade the masses. The public was anyway, yeah.
We'll elaborate a little bit more on that, Paul, straight after the break. You're watching Support Life. We'll be back straight after the break. Welcome back to Support Life. I'm John Hendriks and our guest is Paul OLeary. Paul, just before the break we were about to discuss the culture of Ireland towards pro-life. Tell us a little bit about that and your upbringing and what the understanding is.
Well, I suppose culturally we're a Catholic country, of course. It was what divided us when we were under the British Empire, really. we weren't allowed to speak our language, practice our religion. So Catholicism became our identity in so many ways. It was our institutions of education and healthcare and so forth. So when we became an independent country, obviously there was a Catholic ethos within the culture that within our own culture and within our own constitution, the idea that the fetus was a living thing that needed to be protected was there. So even now it separates us from the rest of England, Scotland, Wales, and even Northern Ireland was unusual because Northern Ireland was a pro-life part of the UK, which is trying to be ebbed away at the moment. But we are a pro-life country. The majority of people still believe that the fetus has rights and that it has a right to life, and that we should protect it in law, support it and nurture it in culture. So you still have in the schools, it's still discussed, it's still debated, and every once in a while it will come up. I think they passed, I haven't been there now in 5 years, but I know that they're trying to deal with abortion, and like in Victoria I think it's up to 9 months legally. In Ireland we're still dealing with the mother's life is at risk, or is she able to travel? Like that was a memory of mine when the Irish public actually voted on, should a woman have a right to travel to another country to have an abortion? So that's where we are at in our understanding and where we're at with abortion in Ireland. So it was to grow up in that environment, it's very, very different to come to a country that is just assumed that it's a right. Every woman has a right in Victoria to go into an abortion clinic and to have an abortion, and that could be paid for by the government. So it's a very, very different kettle of fish, as we say, because when I arrived, she was like, wow, this is an issue, this is a big deal. And again, it goes back to talking about it, discussing it, saying, is this something that you want to do? Is this something that should be restricted in certain areas? Is this even just talking about rights? That I always ask someone, if I come across a pro-choice, do you believe the fetus has rights? And it's a very difficult question to answer because they don't know how to approach it. They just want to view that abortion is a right, but they don't want to actually deal with the rights of another individual. That yes, is in the mother's womb. We understand. We've heard all the arguments, but to come from a country that you had equal voice from both sides, I don't see it in Australia. I don't see that there's an equal. You don't have 3 pro-lifers against 3 pro-choicers on a panel. Generally, you'll have 3 people with a similar opinion, and then 1 person trying to defend their position. And that's very difficult because automatically the premise has been set up that this is actually going to be a pro-choice panel. So that's where it's totally different.
Different, yeah. From the countries you've obviously lived in back home in Ireland, and in the 6 months you've been in the US, I mean, you've said that the cultures are very different. People openly discuss it. They don't have to be courageous and step out and discuss it, and they even vote on it as well, don't they? In the US, is it a voting issue as well in Ireland?
I suppose you're getting from my story today that it's the thinking around the issue is what actually brings people to a better position. No one wants to hurt anything. No one wants to kill anything. We all want to promote, peace and justice and all the good things in life that we want to promote, but you're trying to get people to think about them, to bring them to that position. If you don't talk about it, you can't get to there.
Yes, that's true.
So in the States, you will know your member of Parliament's position, your member of Congress. You'll know exactly his position. You'll have the National Right to Life, Kentucky or West Virginia or wherever, supporting that congressman, or you're going to have NARAL supporting the pro-choice Democrat or whatever, but you know the position. When you go into the polling booth, you know exactly their position on this issue. It's discussed, it's on the newspapers, it's on the debates. I don't remember it being discussed over here. I don't remember it. I don't even fully know what Tony Abbott's view is on abortion. I don't know. And it's something that I think I should know, to know what this government might do or what changes or what's their view. What's a policy that might affect it? I know they've different parliamentary systems, but
if the people were allowed to vote on the subject in Australia, and it might bring it out to the light, and why we're trying to produce a program, like Support Life, is because what we're trying to do is to discuss these things openly like we are today, and it's okay to have a person who has a difference of opinion, but do you think maybe if these issues were brought to light and people were able to vote on them or discuss them openly, in their houses, in their workplaces, do you think that it might change slowly the culture?
I still believe, though, that pro-lifers are a minority in Australia. Of course, we are. We don't have the Parliament on our side or the courts on our side. But the difference of history, Australia's got a very different history to America setting up its country, Ireland. So I don't feel there's a sense of. It's not an ideas country. Australia doesn't come across as an ideas country, not set on an idea. It is still set up as a kind of a penal colony. Force is still used. I remember being shocked in Melbourne, realising that the police had guns. I really shocked. I was like, oh wow, and to understand where does that come from? What aspect of culture allows that? I view Australia as it's a country based on a lot of force. The state is a very powerful thing, and they use force a lot. That's generally how they deal with an issue. Where I come from a country that, we're still debating in our parliament, should they have pepper spray? So very, very different view on the individual and what you can do to the individual.
Yes.
So if we're debating, is a policeman allowed to use pepper spray? Very different view on your community and humanity. We're over here, they've taser and guns and pepper spray. So force is actually seen as a positive thing.
Yes.
And I don't believe that force should ever be used to bring about change.
Yes, that's true.
I believe that a change should be brought about by persuasion and debate. So if it did come up as a voting issue, it would have to be debated for a very long time. You'd have to have that, 3-4 months of setting the groundwork, of setting the arguments, putting it out there, and trying to change people's views in a rational way. That's the goal.
Yes, absolutely. And very briefly, you're an advocate for children because you're a school teacher and discuss it openly with your kids. You discuss obviously with parents and the future parents having children and things like that. So
I work in a state school, so politics is not discussed. It's not that I go in every day and I teach the curriculum. I teach ASVELs, of course, and I work with the community. I'm in a state school. We don't discuss politics, but I see the functionings of a community.
Sure. Well, on that note, we have to thank you for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you and on our show. You've been watching Support Life. Join us again next week. We look forward to it. Goodbye.